calls up and he tells me all of this stuff that he's gone through and life experiences. Oh, great. Your story would be fantastic for my show. It'd be great. It's called Let's Talk About the Music. It's a controversial talk show. So your story will be great. He goes, oh, well, I have someone actually do my interviews for me. What? No.
That's not how it works.
No, you don't. No one does your work for you. You come on the show or nothing at all. So I kind of ignored him. I was just like, he had a great story. Just no, that's just so sad.
Oh.
Well, it's
on the other end of it, I'll add to that, but it's not a negative prima donna story, and I wouldn't term it prima donna, but it's in relation to Who's Bad, and not Joe Bell, but there's another Michael that performs with Who's Bad who's phenomenal as well. His name is Talib York, and people know Joe Bell and Talib as far as within the cities that Who's Bad plays and such, and we've got a lot of repeat fans and stuff like that. And so when they go to a venue that they played literally 20 times now in their history, they feel like, they've earned a certain level of respect there. And so I went to a Who's Bad show recently in Baltimore, in my own hometown, at Baltimore Soundstage, where, I know some of the people there, but I don't know every single one. I don't know all the security people. And I had already been backstage with the band. I also do photography, I should add to that. So I was doing photography for Who's Bad, and I need all access to do that. And so I went out in the front of the house, took some pictures from out in the crowd, went to go back there, and the guy basically clotheslined me, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm going backstage. I was already back there. You can't go back there again. And luckily, it was when Joe Bell was singing and Talib was walking by, and I just went, hey, Talib. And I gestured him over. And I said, can you tell the security guy I'm supposed to be here? And he looks at the security guy and he goes, I'm not going back on stage until you have my guy back where he belongs. And I was like, okay. And the security guy was like, go ahead, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'll take that, actually. That works.
That's some star power. That'll do.
That's awesome.
That was kind of nice. Not that I want that all the time. I'm not that person, but it was kind of nice. I got to do my job, and this guy's not going to listen to me. And Talib stepped up and just made the difference. So
that's awesome.
I appreciated that.
I bet you did. Now, going back to your company, so is there anything that your bands will actually say about you? Toodles or anything like that?
Hopefully good.
I should have them on the show.
I think they'll probably they'll probably say that I'm good to work with and easy to work with. I like to make good, strong business relationships happen. And, that starts with, really being personable, and also when you give your word on something, you live up to it. So, I think that's really my MO. And I think, if you went and asked Joe Bell, I think he'd probably say that I care about my bands as much as they do, as much as they care about it, without being able to pick up an instrument and go on stage with them.
Cool. Now, Spider, do you have any more juicy questions to ask him?
I'm trying to think of some really good ones, because that was my big one. That was the one I'd been kind of working on in advance before the show even started. I was like, I got to get into the gossip, because the gossip's where it's at. How about this? Let's change tacks a little bit on it, but the same kind of thing. Have you, when you've been marketing a band, have you ever encountered the same kind of prima donna sort of stuff at the opposite end, where, say, you've got the band, you're going to go talk to a venue, or you're going to talk to another promoter who's putting on some kind of show, and you've gotten some kind of crazy attitude from these other people once they get on the show? Let's say you think you're going on to an absolutely normal show with the band, and then all of a sudden, left field, whoever's in charge of the show just goes berserk, snaps, and the show's not what you thought it was at all, and things just go from bad to worse, and craziness has happened. Anything like that?
Oh yeah, that's definitely happened. I'm trying to think of the best example of that. Had a band once who they clawed and fought and clawed their way onto this tour with two much bigger bands. For about half the tour, the eastern portion of it, and some of the venues didn't realize that the booking agents of, I forget which band, brought them on. And so they would get to venues and stuff. And, it's okay. Like, they were fine with, like, walking into a venue and having, the venue people backstage say, "Oh, who are you guys?" "Okay, well, we can put you over here." But a couple of the venues were just nasty to them. "Sorry, we don't even know where to put you. But you think we're going to feed you?" Like, just like that. Just being totally belligerent to them and, no respect at all or anything. And it's like, why is that called for? Like, these two bands that put this tour together wanted them here. Yes, we had to, scratch and claw our way onto the tour, but we did it. And so we've earned our spot. We shouldn't have to sit here and justify it to people at a venue who are just angry and bitter, about whatever. Yeah, that's definitely happened.
That sucks.
Yeah, I think you get other stuff where, to me, it's mostly you catch people at a venue on a bad day, because a lot of those people work really, really hard, and it can be a long day, and I get it, and they're indifferent to who you are, and who you think you are as far as relative importance, and they can go slightly unhinged sometimes, but luckily that was kind of the worst. And I have heard some horror stories before, not related to my bands, where it's just like close to fights breaking out or, just walking off stage and stuff. And thankfully that's never really happened.
Well, that's good.
While we're talking about crazy kind of crazy musician stories, I don't necessarily have a. This isn't really a prima donna moment necessarily, but this is just a crazy moment that I've had an experience with bands that I've played with in the past. One of the two bands that I played with, I was vocalist for, and it was more of like a organic kind of metal band, not really as heavy as the other band that I'd been in. Kind of free flow. We were kind of messy. We were all like we had two or three really big egos in this band that all kind of wanted to lead how the music went. And it was a lot of headbutting at practices when one person wanted to try something and somebody else didn't like it, back and forth. And our drummer was a real chill guy. He was a little too chill about things, and he liked to take things to help him with his chill. And we had a show once, and it was probably the last show we ever did, and we all show up, and we're getting ready, and we're just about ready to set up, and he's not there yet, and we're like, "Oh, where's he at?" So we're waiting. Well, what are we going to do? And somebody eventually gets a hold of him via text message, and he forgot that we had a show. He just said, "Oh yeah, I forgot," and didn't make the attempt to drive out at the last minute. He was just like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm doing something else."
Wow.
I'm just like, "Are you
already then?
Are you kidding?" And he was just he was having a little bit too much of that chill that I mentioned, and he just slipped his mind because other things were there. And we tried to have the drummer for my other band, since both bands were playing, we tried to have him kind of fill in a little bit, and we tried to muddle through it. And of course, I mean, he didn't know how the songs went. He'd listened to us, but he'd never played with us before, so he didn't know how the music was supposed to go. So we tried to give him cues, and we made it through 2 songs, and it was a disaster.
I have a story. I know I'm a graphic designer. That's what I'm a graphic designer. I started working with the bands. I love working with bands. I think musicians are fabulous people sometimes. And as you can tell, I'm doing the show. Music. But anyway, this one band I started working with, and I was trying to do my prices to where bands can actually afford me to be their designer. And so there's two stories with this guy. Okay. So anyway, so when I gave him my bill, he was like, "Oh, I can't afford this." Well, you just sat there and gave me this sheet that I can actually use for bands, and you're telling me you can't afford your prices that you gave me? That makes no sense. And I'm also doing this poster for this band, same band, who I have this in with this club, and I needed all this information for this poster so that way I can actually finalize it so we can go to the printers. Me and this bookie that he and I was working with were trying to tell us, hey, we need these things happening. And he would never get back to us till like 4 days before the show airs. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not my priority. This band is not my priority. Then I am not working with you anymore because I'm done. Because we need to get this done and printed and promoted, and when we showed up to the show, because I told him, here's your contract, we're done, release. There was hardly anybody at the show, and he complained why there wasn't. I didn't say nothing. We signed a release, and I left. It's just like, oh my gosh, horrible. Ugh, horrible.
Yeah, actually, that brings up a good point that I do want to mention before I go. One of the things that I do that I think is vitally important that Spider, I'm sure you know about, and Shels, I'm sure you know about too. Yeah. But some bands and ours just don't realize it. It is making sure that the venues are doing whatever they can do to market the shows, and you think that's a given. Like you would assume, hey, it's in the venue's best interest too. They want to sell at the place. They want to sell beers. They want to, make their money. But it's amazing, and it's like, I'm not going to name venues, but I'll name, my experiences with Who's Bad have opened my eyes because they play, 140 shows a year. So that's they play 2 shows in some places. So it's like, let's say it's 100 venues per year they play. So I get that experience of working with venues all over the country, and you see the good and the bad, and you think, now for a lot of venues, Who's Bad it's an important show, but they're going to have, shows around it that are like, maybe it's like Bruno Mars or somebody's coming in, or somebody like, on the radio that people are like, oh my gosh. And they spend all their time working the shows around it. And you're like, hey, what about Who's Bad? Or what about, whatever band it is. And it's like, I got this from a venue that I was surprised at not long ago, and I won't mention. And they usually do a good job, but they switched their marketing team. They had a different approach. They had a different, kind of schedule for how they do things. And whereas usually it's like 2 months out, we're solid, we've got a plan in place, things are already rolling. I got an email from them. Oh, we're fine. We've seen late walk-up sales lately, and, I think in like the last 2 weeks we'll push it really heavily. And you're like, wait a second. That's not how it worked last time. Last time we sold out, and it was 3 days before the show, and everybody was happy. Now we're at, 2 weeks before, we're at 30% pre-sales, and that's nowhere near where we were last time. And I think I know the reason why, because I've done everything I usually do, and I haven't seen you guys mention us in the newsletter, haven't seen any Facebook posts, this, that, and the other. So, I want to make sure that the bands know to find out who that marketing contact is, because there's always that marketing contact, and you make sure that you get on the phone with them. Don't just email them. Email's passive. It can be ignored. You can say whatever you want in it. When you verbally get somebody to say they are going to do this or they have done that, that's more powerful. It's more, I think it's more solid that it's actually going to happen.
Right.
That's been my experiences too. And I'd say one thing to add to that is almost 100% of the time, I say, hey, well, let's get creative. Here's some ideas. Those are always well received. So if you can bring some ideas of your own to the table, no matter how left field or inconsequential you think they may be, bring them up because it shows them that you're engaged in it too. And so then they appreciate that. And then it creates a relationship where, to me, each show that my bands do at a venue, that's me creating a small, on the